Hi creative friends, this is Soraya and thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to dive right back into this still life, but I just wanted to reiterate my three main points. The first one being that everything exists in tandem with everything else. Nothing exists in isolation. That is true whether I'm doing mixed media portraits or a still life or an architectural drawing or painting or landscapes or whatever it is. Nothing exists in isolation. The second point is that a color field is not just one color. So I'm gonna just point this out. Like this apple, it's reading as a red apple, but you know, there are so many different colors and values and textures in this red apple. It's the same with this bowl over here. It's the same with anything that you're painting if you want a more painterly type of feeling. Now, if you're doing like a poster type of art style and you want everything to be flat, then that's different. But if you want to have like a more moody, atmospheric kind of a like just a very like painterly style, then you will realize that, you know, in this apple there are a ton of colors. Your mind is going to fill in the blanks. Like when you look at this, you're just going to read this as a red apple. And the third point is the push and pull. So when you want to push things into the background, you are generally going to go for a, excuse me, a neutral or a cooler color and a darker value. And when you want to pull things forward from the painting, then you will generally use a lighter value and brighter and warmer colors. Now, I'm going to add two more points that I go by. And the first thing is that when I start off my painting, like the first or second or even third layers, I am not worried about details. Details come later. So like I can look at this and I can see that the bowl, the ellipse of the bowl is not accurate, but I'm not really worried about that. That's going to come for later. When I first started painting and drawing, I would go in for the details first. And what I've realized over the years is that I am going to go for my values first. I'm going to go for more of the color fields and the values, and I'm trying to kind of do the push pull thing first. Like I know that the bowl, you know, the sides of the bowl are gonna recede a little bit, so they're gonna be a little bit darker. So I'm not really worried about all the details. The second point is that when I want something to come forward, I am going to, like I said, that's going to be the pull. I want to use you know, warmer colors, brighter colors, lighter values, etc. But that being said, I also have the additional tool of using details. So what I mean by that is I want this, see, so the way I've drawn the apple is in front of this jar and it's actually in front of this bowl as well. So I'm going to put a lot more details in the apple than I am in this over here. So when you use less details, you just leave things a little bit kind of, you know, sketchier. You don't fill in all the details. Then that is going to read as further away. This doesn't hold true as much when you're painting faces because like the space on your face is not as great as say when you're setting up a still life or you're doing architectural drawings or paintings or if you're doing a landscape. So what I mean by that is your eyes are not that far set back from your nose, and usually when people paint faces, like the eyes are super important, so I would want to put a lot of detail, etc. But when I'm doing still lifes, that's like, I'm going to show you. So see how I have like so much more detail and color and everything on the apple, and then these two are just kind of like, I don't have that much detail. So when I look at this, the apple is like I'm pulling the apple forward and these are like being pushed back. It's the same over here. Like I use the tea bags for texture to suggest fabric. And this is like pulling this part of the painting forward. So I hope you can see how there are different tools that we can use to pull things forward and to push things back and to suggest space. Because what we're doing is when we're painting and drawing, we're trying to recreate a three-dimensional object or objects onto a two-dimensional space. So, you know, we're translating 3D into 2D. So there's all these like tips and tricks and tools, and using detail is one of the great tools that I have if I'm doing, say, a landscape or a still life or architectural drawings or paintings. I don't use that for my figures because you know, like I explained, like, you know, I want my eyes to be really detailed. So I hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying. If I'm not, you guys, please ask me questions. So I'm just going to dive right in. I did set off some paints on my palette. I didn't add a lot of colors. I have a cobalt blue just for variation, and my ultramarine blue. I have alizarin crimson. I have just a smidgen of my cad red light, and I also have my Liquitex burnt sienna transparent ink. I have my calligraphy ink in blue. I have my cashew chalk paint and my ink chalk paint, which is like a Payne's gray. So I don't have a lot of colors. I don't want to have a lot of colors because, like, you know, if you look at all of these, they are kind of neutral. They're not like, you know, they don't have a lot of like colors to them. I mean, I know the apple is red, but that being said, you know, I still don't have a whole bunch of colors. So I'm just gonna, like, you know, dive right in, and I'm just gonna build up my, I'm just gonna build up my objects. And I wanna focus more on the apple over here, in the sense of, like, I want to pull this apple forward. Like, that's gonna be the star of the show, is the apple. So I am going to, and remember I said, you know, I'm not really worried about like the getting all the details correct. I'm just kind of like building up my my values. Now, remember when I said like a bowl, you know, the sides of the bowl are gonna recede because it's a, you know, it's like a spherical object. It's the same with an apple. So the sides of the apple are going to recede. So I'm just kind of like, you know, modeling my apple. And by modeling, what I mean is I'm trying to portray the apple being a sphere. Like, it's not flat, you know, it has curves, it's gonna like round off, etc. So I'm just putting in like the shadows. And like I said, I am not really concerned about all the details here. That's gonna come later. And I'm doing the same with the bowl. Now, because I spilled that blue ink, like, see, I already have, I can use that to my advantage. Like, this is going to be, I'm just going to leave a lot of that actually, because I really like it. And it's going to suggest the shadows. And just going to kind of put some of this on there. And you guys, normally when I am doing a still life and I'm not recording it, I will just work in like, you know, I don't know, like 15-20 minute intervals, maybe a half an hour, like whatever, you know, whatever it takes. But, you know, I work on it, then I go do something else, and then I let it dry. So that's how I work. I did that with my mixed media portraits as well. And that way I just want everything to kind of dry naturally. And I tend to have a heavy hand with my colors, so I'm trying not to. I'm trying to like, you know, because I want to build up layers. And I'm gonna bring some of that in there. So you guys, yesterday I cleaned my entire studio up, and I was up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm an early bird, and I spent the whole day cleaning up my studio, which I'm so over the moon about because my studio is clean. But now I can't find the things that I need. Like I don't know where my tea bag stash is. So yeah, I mean, I cleaned everything up, but you know, cleaning things up and then, you know, documenting things and knowing where everything is a whole other situation. So yeah, I'm gonna have to find my tea bags. So see, I'm just kind of like, I'm gonna bring this up closer and I'm gonna try not to spill it. But see, I'm not worried about the details of this apple. I'm just building up my, like I'm building up the form, the weight, the mass of it. So I'm not worried like, oh, well, some of this red is spilling off onto the background, and you know, the apple, you know, the stem isn't absolutely correct, and the, you know, the opening of the bowl is not like 100% correct. I'm not worried about any of that stuff right now, because this is only like, I think it's like my third layer, I think. So I'm not even concerned about that. What I'm doing is I'm just building up like my, you know, I'm building up the objects, I guess, the values. And I want to bring some of that into there like that. And I think I'm gonna go over the background again, because I want it to be darker. Another thing I want to point out, you guys, is that remember in my first video, I said that you've got so much leeway when it comes to doing still lifes. And I'm going to use an example here. So see how this apple is so much, is, I don't want to say it's bigger than this bowl, but this bowl is actually quite small, even though it is receded a little bit in space. So that's going to, you know, that's another way that we are going to suggest space, is by, you know, making things smaller. So what I mean by that is you can draw a flower, and the flower is in the foreground, and the flower is going to be huge on your painting, and there could be a tree that's, you know, a gazillion times bigger than the flower, but the tree on your painting is going to be really, really small, and then the eye is going to read that as space. So the tree is really far away, and you know, the flower is really like pushed, like, you know, sorry, it's pulled forward, the tree is pushed back. Well, there's not that much space in between the bowl and the apple. But what I'm trying to say is, if somebody had to look at this, they're not going to go, oh, why is that bowl so small? You know, why is it so small compared to the apple? Well, maybe it's a small bowl. Whereas if you're doing a face and you make your eyes like super, super small in proportion to all the other facial features, that's gonna, you know, like, you're gonna pick up on that right away, because we're human. So we're gonna notice things on the face a lot more than we're going to notice it on, say, you know, a still life, for example, because there are like a million different sizes of bowls, and there's this and that. So nobody's really going to pick up on that. You're not even going to pick up on it, really. Like, maybe it's a small bowl. So there's just a lot of like leeway. You just have a lot of artistic freedom. By the way, you guys, I am a huge fan of Cezanne, and I absolutely, absolutely, absolutely love, 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 love his still lifes. And I was so fortunate that I got to visit his art studio in France, and oh my goodness, I am just, even now I could just start crying. His art studio, they left everything as is. Of course, you know, it's cordoned off, so like you can look at it, but you can't touch anything, obviously. But his studio looks like a painting, and he obsessed about the exact color for the walls because he wanted it to be a true neutral, and that way the color of the walls wouldn't affect the colors that he was seeing when he would set up his still life. He did the same with his flooring. And you guys, I mean, I just absolutely love his neutrals, and his walls are a wonder to behold. I mean, they are the absolutely perfect shade of gray. Like, I just sat there and I just stared at the walls for like a good, I don't know, a long time. I mean, just, yeah, just, I was so fortunate. I also visited Dali's home, Salvador Dali, and I have to say that I could not wait to get the frick out of there. It was so, I mean, it was Dali-esque. Yeah, but it was so bizarre and odd, and oh my God, I just, yeah. But Cezanne, oh my God, I just absolutely loved his studio, and I could have lived there. Okay, so as you can see, I'm not really worried about the shape of the bowl, the shape of this, the shape of that, the shape of the apple. I'm just kind of building up my, you know, I'm just building up my objects here. And there we go. And I'm gonna let this petal dry, you guys. I'm not gonna mess with it. So what I am gonna do is I'm gonna leave this for now, and then I'm gonna come back and work on part 3, and I'll do the same thing that I did with my mixed media portraits, which, you know, if the videos are too short and I think like people are following along, I'll just post 2 in a day, and maybe that'll help out a little bit. So anyways, you guys, if you've watched all the way to the end, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.